Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC 236 from the beautiful state of Georgia, Hotlanta, Georgia. I'm here. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio, as always, by Cody Saftic.
That's right.
Wearing a hat today.
Wearing a hat today. Man, my bald spot looks terrible. Worse and worse every week. So I'm like, fuck this. I'm starting to wear hats. Or we'll have to switch spots. Or get hair. I'm never going to do that. Yeah, all jokes aside, not really a joke. Real sad time in Cody Saftic's life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Atlanta, Georgia. Have you ever been?
I've never been to proper. I've been through the great state of Georgia many a times. I've been to all the places along the interstate on my way to Florida, I guess. So
Right.
I don't know if I got nothing. You want to reach out to people who actually know about Atlanta. I would reach out to our friends, Daniel Levy, his boy Shaq, residents and from the great area, or from, I don't even know what Atlanta refers to itself as, but yeah, they're from there.
The ATL.
They know all the fighters. There doesn't seem to be a crazy number of like local guys on this. Usually we talk about like home cooking. What's the home cooking there? It's like, it's not really that local. Like you have guys from that general region, the southwest region of the country, fighting on this card, or southeast region, but not really.
But you're surprised Diego Lima's not on it, right?
Like how is Diego Lima not on? Why didn't they bring back Michael Graves? Well, I guess Michael Graves has his own
shit going on.
But
No. Georgia's got a bunch of talented fighters and a great regional scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for whatever reason, almost like Michigan, there's a lot of guys that sit there that never really get that exposure and jump up to the next level. If you want to do anything, you got to go to California.
How
and
is
apparently,
Rafael Assunção not on this card?
many questions going on.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, it's a fun card. I have
for
never
sure.
been to Atlanta. However, I one time did watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play the Atlanta Thrashers, a home game in Toronto. And that's about my extent. And Danny Heatley, I believe, killed a guy in a car crash maybe the next year. And it was all downhill for that non-existent franchise now. But yes, now they're Winnipeg, I believe. So things are back on the up and up. But yeah, no, it's a fun card. And I would say that this is very much two title fights and a free-for-TV card.
We'll get for.
However, there's a lot of good, entertaining, potential fight of the night candidates. And that as a whole, you're not going to be dissatisfied with watching this card. I'm almost certain of that.
Yeah, so let's just get to the quick giveaways here. 2 weeks ago's winner is Stevo7052. Thanks for taking your time away from Jackass, Stevo, obviously the same one, and winning the 20 DK bucks. This week, I believe we decided on who is the underdog. There's a lot of tightly lined fights on this card. Who is the underdog that is like can't miss on this card? And this will get you into a draw for 20 DK dollars. What you got to do, give us that answer, give us your DK handle, and give the show a like. None of the things are possible if you don't do those 3 steps. So I think most of you guys know the drill at this point. I got nothing else left except let's get into the action. We have Dustin Poirier taking on Max Blessed Holloway. Holloway is 9,100 minus 210 favorite. Poirier is 7,100 and plus 175. One thing that first jumps off the page to me here is, well, obviously these guys have fought before, but I think it's kind of crazy to think that everyone thought that Max Holloway went off as an underdog against Brian Ortega. I was here telling you guys, like, don't worry about this guy's speech. This guy just speaks like a Hawaiian. This is just the way that he is. And everybody was going Ortega. He went down to like plus 100 by fight time. And then we saw the clinic that he put on there. Now he gets time off, moves up a weight class, taking on Dustin Poirier, who we had talked about it before. When Poirier went from 145 to 155, it took about 3-4 fights for him to really fill out that build. Now the guy's super jacked and cutting down to 155. Max Holloway is going to be giving up a lot of size and strength, but the thing is, he's going to have speed. That obviously works out well, and nobody manages distance better than Max Blessed Holloway. I just think that the line is completely off. I just think it's way too wide, 210. Like, I think this is a fight of the night contender. I think it's obviously the chalk fight of the night
contender
that anyone would think is. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great fight. The title, by the way, is meaningless, but hey, I'm not going to rain on their parade for walking around with a fake belt. Colby's been doing it for a long time too. So that is what it is. But long story short, like I think Poirier with Mike Brown and all of those guys are going to come in with a good game plan. They've already beaten this guy. Obviously, that was a different Mike Hall.
Did I beat this guy?
That was
or
a
I beat this
different
guy
Max
when he was
Holloway
a
years
child?
ago, for sure.
It's a different fight altogether.
But plus 175, I'm interested in Dustin Poirier. 7,100 on DraftKings.
That is very interesting.
It's hard. Like we were talking about Gaethje 2 weeks ago. It's just like, these are the guys. They don't necessarily have that wrestling game to the same extent as other people, but the type of fights that Poirier gets himself into, like he's just all action packed. And you know that Max is gonna be
He'll welcome that kind
he
of
may
fight.
be backpedaling the whole time, but Poirier is just gonna be up in his face. I don't think Max has the one hitter quitter power to stagnate and push back Dustin Poirier. I think Poirier's chin has improved a lot since moving up to 155 from 145, where we saw him get knocked out against Conor McGregor. Everyone was getting knocked out against Conor McGregor at 145. So
it is what it is.
It is what it is, as Max would say. I just think the value is squarely on Dustin Poirier here. I could be wrong, but I think this should be a lot closer. Like Max, maybe the slight favorite, but I would probably line it at like minus 135 or plus 115. Like I think all the value is on Poirier still. I wonder what's going to happen when we see these guys weigh in against each other. Maybe people see like, oh crap, Dustin Poirier is super thick in the chest, and Max could be in some trouble.
What the fuck does that matter, man? Oh, he's thick in the chest.
You could probably hold him up against the cage.
Okay. So then,
I don't know if he has the wrestling to really take down Max, because Max's takedown defense is incredible.
He's got good takedown defense, but out of Max Holloway's opponents, how many of them came in there with the game plan of, I'm going to take this guy down? Now, he's fought a couple decent wrestlers like Ricardo Lamas who attempted to take him down, but for the most part, is Jeremy Stevens a wrestler? No, not really. Was Jose Aldo trying to take him down? No. Was Anthony Pettis trying to take him down? No. Brian Ortega actually did manage to take him down twice, and this is Brian Ortega, a guy that's first and foremost known for his jiu-jitsu, second of all, an improving striking game. How good is his wrestling? He was able to take down Max. So maybe if Dustin Poirier comes in with this threat of the takedown, sure, who's the better grappler, Dustin Poirier or Max Holloway? How did Dustin Poirier defeat Max Holloway the first time? Triangle armbar, slick, but he totally outclassed him on the ground. So when I think of Dustin Poirier, yeah, he's willing to go out there and bang with you and have an exciting fight, but we've also seen him fight guys like Jim Miller or Anthony Pettis where he mixes in the takedowns, which would be a very smart thing to do here against Max Holloway, because once Max finds that rhythm, that's when he's really tough to deal with. He just gets so fucking comfortable in there. He gets fluid, his combinations start flying, he starts tagging you up, you start getting flustered, you start breaking ever so slightly, and the guy's getting more confident, he keeps coming. That's at 45. It wasn't as if he was the biggest 45 in the world. His size was part of his big advantage. He's tall, doesn't get a big reach. At 55, again, not going to be a big 55er, but he's not really giving anything up. I think him between 45 and 55. He has great cardio, great output at 45. That won't be hindered at 55. His power is not great. He's more of a volume puncher, just completely piece you up like a Nick Diaz. Just eventually you'll succumb from the pressure and the volume of his punches. But as far as that one punch, it doesn't change. At 55, again, not going to have that big power, but volume punching should carry him through. I think a lot of people are really worried about this guy struggling at 45, taking a fight with Khabib, getting sick. That fight was at 55. His body shuts down. Now he's coming back for Ortega. They say he's got brain damage. They say he can't cut the weight. They say his body's shutting down, and he comes out against Ortega, makes the weight, looks fantastic. So if we're not thinking about any of those things, then we should get a good version of Max Holloway here. The thing that worries me with Dustin Poirier is, as much as we all love Dustin Poirier and he just delivers fight after fight, I almost get the slightest impression that he's actually the guy that might be a little bit shop-worn. When you look at his fights, let's say since the Michael Johnson fight where he got knocked out against Johnson, Jim Miller, aging veteran, he gets a majority decision over him. Eddie Alvarez, fuck, I mean, if we've seen anything from Eddie, especially after that ONE FC performance, aging veteran, right? Anthony Pettis, one Superman punch away from being a fucking aging veteran. Justin Gaethje's the fucking man. You can't discredit that. And he beats Eddie Alvarez again. But he's beating a lot of guys that were at the top of the sport at one point that may or may not be struggling. When I look at Holloway, Ortega's the number one challenger. Jose Aldo was the number one guy. Pettis not so much, but Lamas, Stevens, Charles Oliveira, all of these guys are still fighting at a very high level. So as far as competition goes, I feel like Max is in the prime of his career, whereas Dustin's in the prime of his career, but he's fighting guys that may have been a little bit past. Here's what worries me in particular, is that after he beats Eddie Alvarez, he really wanted that Alvarez rematch, as if I'm not taking any other fight other than the Alvarez rematch. Gets it. It's a favorable fight for him. He wins it. Then he gets a Nate Diaz fight, which he pulls out of with a hip injury. Now, that's significant to me because fighting Nate Diaz is like winning the golden ticket, you know, Willy Wonka's golden fucking ticket to the chocolate factory. I'm fighting a guy who has a journeyman-like record, who I believe my skill set will triumph over, who is the second biggest name in the sport, who I'm going to yield a huge pay to. You don't pull out of this fight with a nagging hip injury. You pull out of this fight with...
Do you think Nate's actually going to show up, though?
Let him pull out. Don't be the guy that comes out and says, I'm pulling out with a fucking hip injury. Allow him to pull out. But he pulls out.
Who said that he pulled out? Was it Nate? Because I don't believe a goddamn thing Nate says on social media. Not a single thing.
So whether or not Dustin's the one that comes out and says, I'm pulling out of this fight, he does hurt his hip, which requires some maintenance. Now he's 5 months later. It's probably rehab. He's probably good to go. He has not fought in a year. He's 30 years old. After the hip surgery, Paul, he really went on this whole, I want the UFC to cut me. I don't know why, but he's rallying on, I don't want to fight in the UFC. Nate's tweeting, I want to be cut. Poirier's following up, I want to be cut too. I don't want to fight anymore. I only want to fight for the title. So the UFC bends to that and says, fuck, let's make up a title and get Max Holloway, who's the only really available guy for Dustin Poirier to fight for said made-up title, to come up and fight him. So I'm probably playing way too much into it, and it's a tinfoil hat theory, but to me, Dustin Poirier is 30. He's been through wars. His body's a lot older than 30. He's been through wars. He's probably at the peak of his career or just a little bit past. But he realizes, I don't have time to fuck around and fight meaningless fights anymore. I need to, my body's breaking down, my hip hurts, my shoulder hurts, my knees are starting to hurt. I've had knockout losses in my career. I have a family now. I'm looking to just take a big fight, cash out, and do the damn thing. And he's got a great show. The 7,100, that is some fucking awesome value. Because he's going to be bigger than Poirier. Mentally, he's got the win, or he's going to be bigger than Holloway. Mentally, he's got the win over him already. If he does use his wrestling, he can rack up points, and that's definitely an avenue of a victory for him. He's got the tools. The plus 175, that's where I'm going to mention that odds are subject to change. Because money's coming in on Poirier, and I want to bet Holloway. I ain't not betting Holloway for 220, which it was. I'm not betting Holloway for 210. But I'm hoping it gets to like the 190, the 180 range, and then I'd be willing to take the shot on Holloway. The 9,100, if you're playing multiple lineups, some are really going to be aided by the benefit of 71 Poirier. You're gonna split them up. But if I'm playing one single lineup, I'm going with Holloway. I think he's got a high upside. He can score a lot of points, 9,100. If it goes 5 rounds, great. If he finishes them somewhere in the mix, again, great. He's going to rely strictly on significant strikes because he won't get any takedowns.
Against Ortega, he scored 190 points with 290 significant strikes. And
right. So if you're willing to stand in front of him and throw, and Dustin Poirier is.
This is a strike.
This
fight
is
is
a dream.
Stacking cash central.
Yeah. Like, if you're playing cash games, for sure.
These guys go deep. Sure. Like, they're both scoring well.
But if you're playing a GPP one lineup, you still need one of these guys because either man's going to score a hell of a lot of points. I'm not discrediting Poirier. He can win this fight, but my pick is going to be Max Holloway.
I could see if Holloway won and it was based on significant strikes and these guys won 5 rounds, like, I could see a narrative where like both of these guys end up on the winning lineup despite not getting the win.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean?
If it's 5 rounds of absolute blood, guts, and glory, and Dustin Poirier loses the fight and scores 75 points, you'd be fucking happy, man. He was $7,100, mm-hmm. And then your flip side of that is Holloway, the A side, gets the win. He's going to score even. You'd be very comfortable. So I have a feeling that'll be a high-owned option because this is a tricky card in certain spots. There's a lot of people that you like but you don't trust. These guys, you're almost guaranteed that both of them are going to show it. They're going to bring it. They're going to go for it. They're going to score points. But you gotta have one horse in the race. And are you going Poirier? Or you're just saying values Poirier. That would Dogger Pass.
I'll be playing. Yeah,
maybe Dogger Pass.
It's Dogger Pass for sure for me.
I'll go Holloway, but I see the risk.
And it's Poirier on DK for me.
Okay,
just the 7,100 is so cheap.
So
cheap. But you know what? I don't really love a bunch of the higher priced options. So the next one that we've got on the card, we have Israel last style bender ADESANYA taking on Kelvin Gastelum. 9,200 for ADESANYA, minus 175 favorite. Kelvin Gastelum is 7,000 and plus 155. Adesanya looked fine in his last fight against Anderson Silva. Like, I think it was one of those situations where you're fighting like your hero.
Yeah. Cormier didn't look especially good against him.
You're fighting your hero.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, it's so cool. The moment kind of got to him. He didn't look bad. But he didn't look like he was ready for that next step.
And now he's fighting for a world title. A made-up world title again, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he went from fighting 43-year-old banged-up Anderson Silva to, which you're saying, maybe he didn't look ready. And maybe he didn't. To a world title fight. That's big, man.
Sorry, this is scatterbrain. I was going to bring this up on the last one. I have a greasy theory.
Ooh.
On the interim title fight between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. Let's call a spade a spade. And, you know, as my name key has said earlier in the show, like, I'm a full-blown Khabib nut hugger. So, like, you know that it chaps my ass a little bit having to see this fake belt getting fought for and so on and so forth. Here's my greasy theory. I
want to hear it. I never
The problem is that Tony is out there, and Tony is the rightful guy who should be fighting Khabib. Like, we've been trying to make this fight for years.
I strongly disagree, but go on.
That is the fight. That guy had one of these fake interim title belts, and it got just taken away from him. Like, he actually does deserve it. So here's my theory: Conor wants to fight Khabib, but they're like, Conor, you got your ass handed to you by Khabib. Like, absolutely mollywop. Like, people will watch it. Nobody really wants to see you endure that again. Here's what we do. Khabib, he doesn't want to fight until his buddies or until Zubair Tukhugov is off of suspension. All of that. How do we get Conor back in the public eye? Let's create a fake belt between two guys that he's already beaten at 145, at 155. We'll have Khabib fight Tony for the real belt, and then Conor will fight the winner of these two guys, take that belt. You get another title onto Conor, that lifts him up, makes him seem like he's more reasonable. He takes on the winner of Khabib and Tony. And they're hoping that Tony wins because they don't want to see him get absolutely smashed by Khabib again.
Yeah, it could be.
That's my greasy. Well, you're the greasy theory guy here. Like, is that a good greasy theory?
My greasy theory, going back on that one, is Khabib wins against Conor McGregor, and it's a career-high payday, right? It's money he's never seen before. So his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, says, we're never going to fight for an amount less than this ever again. So who in the division could you potentially fight that's going to garner that kind of payday? Do you think him rematching Ally Quint is going to sell anything? No. Do you think him versus Dustin Poirier is going to sell anything? No. Him versus Max Holloway, it's interesting. They kind of tried to book it one time, champion versus champion, but it's really not even a salivating fight like you're excited for it. So he's got to fight Tony. He's got to fight Conor, or some bullshit Nate Diaz fight where Nate Diaz does not deserve the fight in the slightest sense, but the marketing machine says we can make the most money off this. Tony Ferguson, in my opinion, should never fight again. I do not want to see him ever fight again. I know that's sad to say. He's extremely entertaining. He's one of the most fan-friendliest guys in the game, but he's fucked in the head. And I don't care if you now all of a sudden get on psycho meds. Taking punches to the head is not good. He's 35 years old. His brain has probably deteriorated over the last 10 years of competition. And now he's in a position where he believes the CIA is spying on him and he's destroying his fireplace, looking for bugs that are not there, that are imaginary. Mm-hmm. This man needs to be taken care of. He doesn't need to be getting into the ring and fighting. And again, that is very fucking sad. But this is sports, and these things happen in sports, and you have to protect somebody from themselves. So, like, at the end of the day, I know we directly profit over people getting punched in the head and kicked in the head in a cage, but, like, Tony Ferguson, I'm really sorry. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. He should not be sanctioned to fight. He should not be licensed to fight, and that is really shitty because think about the amazing fights that he had in store, but, like, I don't want to see it. I'll watch it because I'm a sick fuck.
Fuck, you made me cry now.
I know. It is what it is.
All right, back to the action here. Okay, Adesanya, Gastelum, minus 175 plus 155. You see anything here? Is there, what's your take?
So this comes back to, like I mentioned in Poirier versus Holloway, is it's Gastelum's willingness to fucking wrestle. Like, he could potentially outgun.
Is he a good wrestler, though? He did it against Uriah Hall, but really, for the most part, when
is Israel Adesanya a better wrestler than Uriah Hall? On the spot, right now.
At that time?
No, at that time, sure. But Uriah Hall's actually improved a lot in the wrestling.
At that time. Yeah, he's improved a lot. That's what I was saying. At that time, I would say yes, but slightly.
Yeah,
like I think he's only got like 62% takedown defense. Like, it's not great. It's not great. We've seen him exploited there. We saw like fucking Rob Wilkinson take him down. But this is a guy that's...
So what if you're Kelvin Gastelum? And
But this is a guy who's
making...
making massive improvements in between every single fight, I think.
Fair enough. He's making massive improvements. But, I mean, physics will just dictate the fact that one guy's a tall, lanky, skinny kickboxer taking on a short, stocky, no idea how this guy's even competitive at 185 on paper wrestler. So, like, he's going to have the low center of gravity. If he can close that distance and pin this guy up against the cage and work him and tire him. And Izzy went 3 rounds with Anderson Silva, and, like, he didn't look good. His cardio didn't look great. His power, what power? He was hitting Anderson Silva with his best punches. And Anderson Silva is fucking with him. He's standing there and fucking with him. So maybe it's like you're saying, he's fighting his hero. He's pulling back a little bit. He's not going for the kill shot. If you've ever watched this guy's kickboxing career, he wasn't a murderous power puncher. No. He's a technical, long, rangy guy. He has the body type. John Jones is not a murderous power puncher.
He admits that he's not like that, though.
Fair. So with Kelvin Gastelum, he's the kind of guy that's going to be pressuring you and coming forward. And at 185, he's a small guy. But if he's not fighting Chris Weidman, a guy twice his size who he's trying to grapple with, his cardio checks out. He's able to push the pace and just make these dirty fights. Now look at the guys that Jacare Souza. He wants no part of the ground game. So he gets outstruck in that fight. Somehow gets a split decision. Bisping, no takedown attempts. But let's outpunch him. Weidman, I can't take the guy down anyways. He's better grappler than me. Vitor, why not take down Vitor? I'll just punch him out. Tim Kennedy, Johnny Hendricks. He actually attempted 1 takedown on Johnny Hendricks. That's the last time he shot a fucking takedown. Was 1 takedown against Johnny Hendricks.
Mm-hmm. So why do we think why do we think he's such a good wrestler then?
Because if you break the fight down as a striker versus striker, then you're just going to put your money on Izzy, and that could be a big problem if you do not factor if you look at Kelvin Gastelum,
sure.
He doesn't shoot takedowns.
We go back.
He does.
Let's go back to the Adesanya versus Tavares fight. You know what the narrative out there was? Oh, Brad's been working on his wrestling. He's going to be able to take down Izzy. It's just like, don't assume that a fighter that you're betting on is going to follow a narrative or script or a game plan that you don't see him ever really do. If he's going in there against Chris Weidman, okay, well, Chris Weidman's going to go for that fucking takedown. We haven't seen anything since, Uriah Hall fight. He goes for a takedown against Johnny Hendricks because Johnny Hendricks isn't expecting it.
He took down Neil Magny. Are you going to sit here with a straight face and tell me that Israel Adesanya is a better grappler than Neil Magny? The only thing he's got is he's a lot bigger than Neil Magny.
He's also a much better striker.
Oh, yeah, all day. I'm just talking about grappling. Yeah, fair enough. Kelvin Gastelum, again, has struggled with opponents in the past, but you get the feeling that here's a guy that seems to be making improvements, and it's all about a style clash. He's always going to struggle against the bigger grapplers in the division because they'll take him down and they'll work him. Yeah, he's a wrestler, but he's not out wrestling Chris Weidman. Yeah, he's a wrestler. He's not really out wrestling Johnny Hendricks. He's got to rely on his tools. His other tools is that he can strike. But when he's not getting takedowns, he's proven against elite level competition. Mind you, again, we go to Brunson. Level of competition.
Let's think about Brunson. Oh, Brunson. Oh, he took down Yoel Romero.
Brunson.
Oh, Brunson took down Yoel Romero, and just he wasn't able to get the takedowns against. I don't think Izzy's takedown defense is as bad as people are labeling him.
If tomorrow was a kickboxing match, right? It's just a kickboxing match. Let's even say it's a Muay Thai fight. We'll say it's a Muay Thai fight, and it's Anderson Silva right now versus Kelvin Gastelum.
Anderson Silva wins.
A straight kickboxing match? I think Anderson Silva a couple of years ago, in his prime, it's not even close. A couple of years ago, he probably still eats this guy up for breakfast. But nowadays, a pressure fighter like Gastelum, who is not nearly as much of a technician, he's not nearly as skillful, his ability to just push forward, and he's not a better striker than Vitor Belfort, but he pushes forward and he punches this guy out. He's not a better striker than Michael Bisping, but he pushes forward and he punches the guys out. If you're an aging fighter or you can be exploited, Kelvin Gastelum's simple style of combination punching and moving forward has proven to be effective. Now, against a superior striker like Izzy, he's going to be in trouble. And against a counter puncher like Israel Adesanya, that's what he wants. He wants you to come get some. But Israel Adesanya had a striker's delight. He had he was basically fighting his dad, and he's really unable to find that second gear. Whereas Kelvin Gastelum, if he starts to tire like he did kind of against Anderson ends up on top of you, that's a problem. But Anderson's not even trying to get himself into a position where he ends up on top of you. Kelvin could be mixing in the takedowns with the striking. All I'm saying is you were talking about all the value being on Dustin Poirier, right? I'm just gonna flip the argument. All I'm saying is all the values on Kelvin Gastelum. Like he's $7,000. He's got 5 rounds to work with.
As a DraftKings
Not
play,
a huge
DraftKings play
score.
100%. Kelvin Gastelum is the better
$7,000.
Because the thing about Kelvin is that he's super durable. We've seen him go 5 rounds a bunch of times. I don't see Izzy knocking him out. If he does, it would be a late knockout. Like round 4, round 5, and that would have to
him out. You seen Kelvin Gastelum get knocked out? Like
exactly, that's what I said. His chin is amazing. It's very, very good. So like Adesanya at 9,200 is not. I guess you could play him in GPPs if you're really chasing that, but like I don't like him at all as a DraftKings play. I don't mind the line is heading in the direction that I like in terms of betting him though.
Sure.
That's all I'll say. So you like Gastelum? You got Gastelum winning the title? Again,
if I was just looking at this card for the 2 fights that it is, right? It's like I got 2 guys with big value, but I do think Max Holloway will get the win. Now my second guy with big value, Kelvin Gastelum. Fuck, I think he's got all the merit. He's actually a better price. He's only $7,000. The plus 155 isn't as tasty, but yeah, he's got merit to his game. And hopefully this time he doesn't show up with a staph infection and ringworm and he's feeling good and he makes the weight nice and comfortable and he gets after it. But
a lot of big ifs there with Kelvin.
Kelvin Gastelum one time missed weight by 10 pounds, spent the night in hospital, and then fought Tyron Woodley to a somewhat competitive split decision. And it's such a terrible fight. But it's like this guy, he's not flashy, doesn't have the big knockouts. He has knockouts, doesn't have the big knockouts, doesn't have the big submission, doesn't have the big takedown slams, but like he's very versatile. He's good everywhere. He's at a King's MMA, a world-class camp. And the price just looks like he's being overlooked a little bit, so why not chase it? That's just my 2 cents.
All right, we got Eric Anders taking on Khalil Roundtree. Eric Anders, 9,000 on DraftKings and a minus 200 favorite. Khalil Roundtree, 7,200 and plus 170. Seen a lot of love out there for Eric Anders. At this price, I can't get on board. It's just too much.
Too much
to be betting for him. I think it's a Khalil Roundtree. Any sort of his fights, it's dangerous. The guy can hit hard in the first little bit. Anders seems to be a lot of a smarter fighter overall. He'll take his time getting to where he's got to get. And we know that Roundtree, it's like, if you can get through the first 7.5 minutes, that guy's gas tank gone. His power gone.
7.5 is being very generous.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It can be like 3.5, 4 minutes. And this guy, like against Oleksiak,
4 minutes.
It was about 4 minutes, and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, he's done.
You're either out or he's out of breath.
9,000 is a lot to be paying up on DraftKings for a guy who doesn't really score historically all that well. He's got the right opponent to score well. Roundtree's going to come after him. But like Eric Anders is a good athlete who I just don't know. He hasn't really put it all together.
Yeah.
He's not great at wrestling.
Athlete, not a great fighter.
No, exactly.
But he's developing. It's just he's not there yet.
I agree. So it's just like the minus 200 is just like a big price to be paying to on this guy, in my opinion. And 9,000, like hopefully we can find other guys to round out our lineups here. I think Anders wins, but like this is a stay away from me. What about you?
Yeah, well, Eric Anders, known as ya boy. In fact, my boy. I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. And I've generally been on the winning side of his fights, win or lose, outside of that Machida shit. What the fuck? Yeah, again, like Eric Anders, there's a lot to like here, but you can also see where he's unbelievably green. UFC's got a problem with that, man. You sign a guy here who's a great athlete. I mean, he was a standout football player. Maybe if he was a little bit bigger, not a middleweight, but a light heavyweight, he'd be playing in the NFL. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, you watch his like regional show career and the fighting on the regional scene, it's all there. The power is there. Not a great wrestler, but the strength's there, the explosiveness there. You know he's going to be adding the wrinkles to his game. You know he's going to be getting better, but there's definitely holes to his game. Comes to the UFC, has a string of nice, fast, quick little finishes. They like him. They push him to that Lyoto Machida fight. It was too much, man. Too much. But he
won that fight.
Yeah. Well, no, I thought he lost. And it was a terrible fight. Like, he didn't do anything.
He should have won that fight.
And that fight illustrated the biggest flaw in his game is that he's got big power.
Fighting in Brazil and getting robbed.
Fair enough. maybe that's what happened. But in my opinion, what happened is he's got big power, and his entire career, you know, he touches guys generally for the most part, they fall over. He's not a great wrestler, but he tosses guys to the ground and he gets on top. Now he's taking down a guy Machida he can't take down, and that big power, maybe you could knock out Machida. He hurt Machida, he dropped Machida. But for the most part, it's a one and done situation with this guy. He gets outworked. His fight with Tim Williams, he was winning the 2 rounds, but Paul, he was kind of getting outworked. Doesn't look good. Kicks the guy in the fucking head while he's trying to get up in the 3rd. Spectacular. But the Santos fight was, again, too much too soon. Here's another guy that's about to challenge for a title. And then the Elias fight, you and I both sat here and said with a straight face, he's a better fighter than Elias. And Elias will just stay at range and outpoint him because Anders doesn't let his hands go.
A bunch of nonsense kicks.
He's a slow fucking starter taking on a guy who's a point fighter. So why would you want to go in a hole earlier with the points? So Anders is his own enemy, right? Is that you can easily outpoint this guy just fighting a better game plan. He's got, I hate to say it because he's my boy, he's got a low fucking ring IQ.
Luckily, he's fighting
Rountree,
though.
Herein lies where the UFC's like, we don't want to cut this guy. We like this guy. He's got exciting knockouts. He's got potential. He's a little bit older, but he's a great athlete. So let's throw him in there with Khalil Rountree. Khalil Rountree will come get some. If Eric Anders has a slow start, Rountree will force him to fight the 1st round. If he survives the 1st round, Anders should likely pick this guy off in the 2nd or the 3rd round. And that's why you're getting the 9,000 is that obviously the bookmakers at 2-1 believe that Eric Anders will probably survive that 1st round. Guy's got a good chin. Like, yeah, he got finished at the end of the 3rd by Thiago Santos. He took some shots.
Yeah,
before
disgusting
getting
amount of
that
damage in that fight.
That guy can take a punch. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm more worried about he gets one of these slow-ass starts. But that's almost the best thing that could happen to him here. Get a slow start. And then in the 2nd round, when Khalil Rountree's tired, you should be able to put it together. Ground game, again, Eric Anders, not great on the ground, but he's a better athlete. He's more explosive. He's stronger. He could be able to plow Khalil Rountree to the ground, theoretically. But more so, I see Rountree hopefully coming after him, getting caught by something in the exchange and getting knocked out. We all know about Rountree's power, but he's like such a one and done. Like, you look at his record, right? Loses to Tyson Pedro, Daniel Jolly. He punches out Paul Craig. He loses to Michael Oleakchuk. And then he has the win over Gokhan Saki. But it's like, it's not Johnny Walker style where it's like, oh my God, this guy's putting on a tremendous display.
Like he's setting up traps and doing crazy shit. It's just like nothing, he literally has to land like a straight left down the pipe type of thing.
Right. And Johnny Hendricks is blown out on the scene and looks to have all this athleticism. He's 6'5". He's got all this. Khalil Rountree is undersized for the division. We watched him on The Ultimate Fighter like 4 years ago. He has made virtually no improvement since then. Mm-hmm. But we know we're getting out of the Warhorse. He's a banger. He's got big power. That's not enough for me here. So the love's coming in on the money line. You wanted to get Anders when he first opened up. As far as the 9,000, that ain't going to change. But if you're looking to avoid the Max Holloways and the Israel Adesanyas of the world, those are your other expensive plays. But when you consider Eric Anders' upside and potential in comparison to the other aforementioned fights, it's not even comparable. You would want to pay the extra $100 for Max Holloway. Max Holloway could lose the fight and still score more points than Eric Anders.
Max Holloway could lose the fight and score 100 points. Like, that's actually not impossible with the amount of significant strikes that this guy can land.
What you're going to get with Eric Anders, though, is low ownership. And if he does get that 2nd round knockout, it will have been made all worth it. So that is the plus side there.
We have Alan Jouban taking on Dwight Grant. Alan Jouban, 8,300, a minus 115 favorite. Dwight Grant, 7,900 and minus 105. The next whole stretch of fights are all straight pick'ems here.
Oh, buddy.
So we'll just hand this one over to you. You have historically, I would say, been an Alan Jouban hater. You always bring up the fact that he's a model. That
was a long time ago.
That you don't really believe him to be a fighter. You don't think that his head is in the game. The guy's been away from a long time, probably spending most of his time modeling. So are you fading him here? Are you impressed with Dwight Grant, especially coming off of a knockout of Carlo Pedersoli? Carlo Pedersoli in his last fight?
The Italian stallion. Mm-hmm. Not only is Alan Jouban a model at heart. Like, he's proven to be a fighter, but is a model at heart.
He's a Versace model?
Yeah, he also attempted to like become one of the Fox panel guys, and the UFC was using him a lot in like those bullshit Karen Bryant. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know the name of it, but you do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He was trying to like get his foot in to like, do the broadcast, hey, good looking guy, and like just wasn't good. And then eventually got cut. Says he's going to come back to fighting. Hey, I'm all for it. The guy puts on extremely entertaining fights. He's actually coming up on his 38th birthday. That's interesting to me in that he didn't get a early start into the sport. got an early start into fucking modeling, Paul. Then he comes over to fighting, and the guy can fight. He's got a martial arts background. He's a good striker. When he goes out there and he executes what he's able to do, I don't want to say he's one of the better strikers in the division, but he is a fine, adequate striker. The problem is that he gets himself into a gunfight at some point and he gets knocked the fuck out. And that's kind of what's now, blame it on age, blame it on he's a traditional martial artist that maybe didn't have those early vigors, blame it on maybe he just doesn't have a chin. I don't know. But when you see him at his best, the Bilal Muhammad fight and the Mike Perry fight, damn, this guy's doesn't really get tired. He kind of got tired against Bilal Muhammad, but cardio's there. He's very precise. He manages distance well. The Gunnar Nelson fight, yeah, everyone remembers him getting choked out, but like he got floored. Like he got outstruck by the craftier Gunnar Nelson. The Nico Price fight, he's the favorite. Nico Price is one of those. He's got a tremendous amount of power in hindsight. But like again, unheralded, very fast.
I'll never forget the Matt Dwyer fight.
Matt Dwyer, it's a half slip, but he boots him in the head.
Yeah.
And JOUBAN folds.
I thought he was knocked out.
Back. Remember, we all watched
I thought he was full blown knocked out. Like
everybody jumped up like, oh, I had money. I was like, son of a bitch. But here's a guy that has a very exciting style. But in order to have a very exciting style, you need to be able to take damage coming back at you. And therein lies the issue. He's a better striker than Dwight Grant. He should go out there and outpoint Dwight Grant. But Dwight Grant was getting outpointed against Carlos Pedersoli. He's got a big right hand. He's got a big amount of power. He comes from a Muay Thai background. So if you're looking as far as the fight goes, striker versus striker, sure. JOUBAN's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got a good ground game. He just never goes to it. So we're looking at it for striker versus striker. JOUBAN should outpoint this guy. JOUBAN should be winning on rounds. But if you can't take the shot, and Dwight Grant's one of these guys that's proven to really only have the shot, I would avoid. The 7,900, if you want to score big points, Dwight Grant's got high upside, but that's a high price still, you know? I mean, they're factoring that in. He's a near pick'em because people know JOUBAN's probably the better fighter, but we don't trust him. He's been off. He's 37. He's got the layoff. Maybe we don't know if he can take the punch. Dwight Grant's not young either. He's like 33, 34. But this is what he does. He gets hopefully into striking exchanges and blasts you. He's got big power. When he wins fights, he knocks you out. I can't say with any vote of confidence that Nico Price is any better of a striker or has any more power than Dwight Grant. You can get beat up by JOUBAN, but you just got to stay in long enough to land that punch. So if Dwight Grant was a better price and I was taking like a punt play type guy, I would say, fuck, this guy's got some high upside. He could get the knockout. He could score me some points. Perfect. But I don't trust it because I truthfully believe Alan JOUBAN is in every way, in every aspect, a better fighter, but maybe can't take the punch. That's my worry there. So I'm personally just going to avoid this. Although he could score, Dwight Grant could score. So if you're on this fight, there's no wrong answer. But I would say JOUBAN or pass. You're probably smartest just to pass.
Fair enough. We got Nikita KRYLOV taking on OSP. KRYLOV, 8,200, minus 115 favorite. OSP, 8,000, minus 105. Another straight pick 'em. This one seems pretty straightforward in terms of like, what do we expect to see? If you're betting KRYLOV, you hope to see him never get taken down and be flat on his back because OSP will find that choke. He will find the St. Preux choke, or what are they calling it now? Instead of the Von Preux. The Von Preux choke. He's so effective at it at this point. Like when he can get you into that position. On the feet, KRYLOV is just slinging kicks. He's got that karate background. Like he is dangerous as fuck. I expect it to be a very dangerous fight. A fun fight. A fight that it's really, really hard to feel good about either side. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for KRYLOV, so I'll be picking him here, but like I don't have very much confidence because like I know that there's really only a couple ways for this to go. Yeah, there is the possibility that OSP blasts him and maybe knocks him out, but like the more possible,
less likely.
The more possible thing that I actually see obviously happening is either KRYLOV just boots the fuck out of him with one of his kicks, or OSP able to take this fight to the ground and submits him with relative ease. Like, it won't be very much different than we saw Shurkinov take on KRYLOV. Like that's a similar type of matchup. Maybe Misha's a little bit more strong and a little bit more tenacious when he gets on top, but the technique may actually be on OSP in terms of like setting up that choke. Like He's amazing. He's done it so many times that, like...
Fun fact for some listeners out there, the very first victim of the Von Preux was Nikita Krylov. Snagged him up on him. That's what he does. I had a dream, Paul. I had a dream that this fight plays out 100 times. It goes one of two ways. Way number one, Nikita Krylov blasts this motherfucker with one of his kicks. Like you're saying, that's how he fights. He's the most potent finisher you have ever seen. I'm not saying he's the best finisher you've ever seen. I'm not saying he's an elite level fighter. It's like the killer instinct is strong in this one. He will go for it. The other 50% of the time, he's not going to get that finish. He's going to end up on his back, and OSP is going to submit him. That's how this goes. But we've seen this fight already, and that's how it went the last time. And so this time, it's going to go the other way. He's probably going to clip OSP. So much has changed since the last time they both fought, realistically speaking. Like, Krylov was like 22 years old, like just a kid. The biggest disservice that he's had is that when he left the UFC, they just set him up with like name brand can guys like Fabio Maldonado and Emmanuel Newton, and like destroying those guys really quick, not going to benefit you, because like I need to see you be able to sustain that pace in the second or third round. Krylov, notorious as a gasser. The guy goes out there, he blows his wad real fast. If he doesn't finish you, he gets tired. His last fight with Jan Blachowicz, Jan's a decision machine. Shouldn't be getting finished by Jan, but you're so fucking tired that Jan Blachowicz is able to put it on you. Now with OSP is a better grappler. OSP is not a very good wrestler.
No.
Not that Krylov is particularly good in the takedown defense department. But what I think it is that Krylov will come out here and he'll do that similar to Khalil Roundtree, 5 to 7.5 minutes of devastation, which I think at this point in OSP's career, you know, getting knocked out by Jimmy Manuwa, not pulling the trigger in the slightest bit against Volkan, REIS, it's a decision. Is it Paul? Because the man is pretty much unconscious with 4 minutes, 59 seconds of that third round. He's taken some damage. He's a guy that stands very tall and upright when he's in there. He's susceptible to that early pressure. He's got to be able to survive. And as that early pressure is breaking him down, he's getting older. He's less durable than he used to be. I'm worried that Krylov just takes him out. And the flip side is if Krylov doesn't take him out, maybe Krylov can get a decision still out of it if he wins the first and second round, gasses out. But OSP's got the Von Preux. But like, what else has he got? He doesn't got big ground and pound. The guy's fucking menacing. Like, imagine him being on top of you. But he doesn't got big ground and pound. He's super long in range. He doesn't have a great jab. You would think he's branded and his bicep is like the Ultimate Warrior, but he doesn't got that big power. He's just kind of good everywhere in a division that lacks people that are like that. But if again, this would probably, as far as the money line goes, I think you'd be smart to avoid it. But as far as the GPPs go, you might want one of these guys. Krylov is traditionally a guy that if he's going to win, you need to have him on your roster. And the flip side is if he doesn't win, OSP is likely to score a lot of points and will be somebody at $8,000 that you would love to have on your roster. So a very tricky play this fight is.
Yeah, this fight, you have to probably play it. Like, somebody's getting finished, somebody's scoring. I'm going to go for the more expensive guy and hope that he's a little bit less owned.
That's what I'm doing too. But we'll see how things play out. We'll see how things play out.
When he taps to the Von Preux in 3 minutes and 59 seconds of round one, I will not be shocked. And yeah, it is what it is. All right, we got Jalen Turner taking on Matt Steamroller Frevola. We got Jalen Turner, 8,400 and a -125 favorite. Matt Frevola is 7,800 and +105. Another really, really close line fight. Turner probably has the striking advantage, I would imagine. Frevola, a little bit more of a grappler with a questionable chin, fighting out of Matt Serra's gym up in New York. How do you see this one shaking out there, Cody?
Yeah, well, I hate to sound like a broken record because I know I've kind of used these analogies on some of these other fights, but this is a tale of two potential outcomes. Is that Jalen Turner has more than enough to spark Matt Frevola out in the first round. The same time, Matt Frevola is much better on the ground when he doesn't have durability issues, which he's kind of proven to have at an elite level. He's a decent wrestler. He's a grinder. He's got good cardio. He's going to keep coming. Those are issues with Jalen Turner. But we'll start with Jalen Turner. Before him ever coming onto that Dana White Contender Series, the guy either smokes you out early in the first round or he gets a little bit tired and falters. When he took on Max Mustaki, it's a fun fight, man. It's a back and forth. You see how much power this guy's got. You see how dynamic he can be in short bursts. But Mustaki like breaks his foot or something after the first round. So you really only get to see that first round. Then he takes a short notice fight against Vicente Luque. Balls or no brain. But like, why would you come off a Contender Series fight your record's like 7-3 or something. Short notice fight against Vicente Luque. Like, because he didn't get the contract. Well, I'm going to take this short notice opportunity. Whatever the case may be. Vicente Luque too much. And then against Kellen Potter's terrible. But he smokes him out in the first round, 53 seconds. So my worry again here is that I know he's dynamic. I know he can get that first round finish. Against Matt Frevola, that bodes well. But if he doesn't get the first round finish, it's not as if I'm still taking on some can. I'm taking on a guy in Frevola that, look what he did against everybody's favorite spinning back kicker, Lando Venado. Like, he got fucked up in that first round. In the second and third round, it's like, dude, he's a pretty decent grappler. He's got a good ground game. He's at Matt Serra's gym. What are they showing you? How to throw overhand rights? No. How to get the guy down and how to ground him. He's a steamroller. That's kind of his shtick. It's just, again, you got to go with the gut instinct sometimes on a very close fight. I think you were extremely accurate. You said a lot of these fights are pick'ems. I strongly agree. You got to go with your gut. And the gut is that Jalen Turner does catch him and knock him out before Frevola is able to rally. Frevola's chin is just not where it needs to be at. We've seen that. We've seen him get sparked inside of a minute. We've seen him, get dropped and rally for the victory. In this case against Jalen Turner, more dynamic, better athlete, more explosive. He's a first-round finish kind of guy. He needs to get that finish. I know what I'm talking about. KRYLOV, same thing. He's a first-round finish kind of guy. I hope they both get that first-round finish. Khalil Roundtree, he's a first round. I hope he doesn't get that finish. These are all 50-50 fights because both guys have high upside and extremely low downside as well. But in this case, I am going to say Jalen Turner does catch him at some point. Minus 125, not bad. 8,400, he could score a lot of points. Or if he doesn't get that first round knockout, he could score you 20 or 30 points and get out grappled the entire time, maybe less, and it would be a bust. So maybe more of a cash game play for 8,400. Not the greatest GPP, but high GPP upside. So I'll just stop talking now because I'm talking myself out of it. But my official play will be Jalen Turner to get that knockout, hopefully.
Sames. All right, we got Alexandre Pantoja taking on Wilson Hayes. Pantoja is 8,800 minus 150 favorite. Hayes is 7,400 and plus 130. Hayes has got to be getting up there in age right now. I don't have his age right in front of me right now. He's correct. Been around. These guys, not too different overall in terms of, grapplers who have kind of really put the striking together, but age may be the one defining factor. It seems to be the defining factor for the books right now, with Pantoja being a minus 150 favorite. I have a general sense that, one, on DraftKings, this is a fight that you can really avoid. Because I fear that, watch, it'll end up being a scramble fest, right?
Score a ton.
Yeah, but I feel like this is the type of fight that both of their ground games may offset each other. Unless Pantoja goes, you know what? Wilson Hayes struggles to get down to 125. Wilson Hayes gets really tired. We saw against even Sasaki, where round 3 against Sasaki, he was getting out-grappled by Sasaki. It was supposed to be his game, but he was so tired at that point that we've seen spots. It's not every single fight. It's when he's not able to control the grappling aspect of the game, not able to find that back. He's so good at slipping to the back he gets super, super tired. And I could see maybe that being a strategy for Pantoja, but any sort of ground between the two of these guys, I think is going to be negated. I like Pantoja's length on the feet, his ability to throw kicks on the feet, just to maintain range a little bit better to get him a decision win here. But I think it's a very, very fadeable fight on DraftKings, because if it turns into a kickboxing fight between two grapplers, nobody's scoring.
If that's what it turns out to be, Wilson Hayes is fucked, because at 5'4", his striking is literally only to be used in short bursts to get a hold of you and get your ass to the ground. That's his entire game is based on the premise of he's really strong, he's stocky. If he gets top control on you, if he takes your back, he'll grapple you. Yeah, he's taking on another black belt in Pantoja, but he's got the wrestling advantage here. And he's got a better top game. If it's Pantoja just trying to submit him out of his guard, I don't really see it happening. Guy's been submitted once his entire 14-year career against Demetrius Johnson. Fucking fly, you know what I mean? I think he'll be okay in that regard. The thing that gets me is that he doesn't have a great chin. He's won a lot of fights where he's been floored multiple times in the fight. We see this almost all the time out of him. And when he has a reluctance to grapple, or if he simply can't get the fight to the ground and can't grapple with you, what other choices you have other than strike, and that's where he's going to get banged up. You even look at like old ass fights like him versus Joby Sanchez. The guy's getting dropped by the likes of Joby Sanchez. But this is the one thing the guy's got in his back pocket is against guys that aren't great wrestlers or aren't, you know, at least his level of grappling. He styles on them. Him versus Dustin Ortiz, he scores 9 takedowns. Him versus Hector Sandoval, who he submitted in 1:49, 3 takedowns. Him versus Ulka Sasaki, like you said, 6 takedowns. Him versus John Moraga, he lost and scored 8 takedowns. The only 2 people he has not taken down was Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo. So if you're an elite level wrestler and he can't take you down, you could beat this guy. If you're not an elite level wrestler and you're going to have to be forced to grapple with this guy, chances are you're going to lose. And as much as Pantoja is a black belt, he's young, he's inexperienced. And whereas he had issues, not grappling, takedown defense. Brendan Moreno took this guy down. Eric Sheldon gave him trouble. It's like
Dustin Ortiz. It was a scramble fest, and he lost the scramble fest.
Exactly. He was able to take Ortiz's back, and Ortiz just kept kept scrambling. So against Wilson Hayes, is he going to take Wilson Hayes' back? I don't know. Is he Yusir Formiga? No, so probably not. So does he have a path to victory? Yes. Keep the fight standing. Hurt this guy, wobble this guy, but Wilson Hayes is tenacious. He's the kind of guy you hate to bet against because he's on your ass and he's coming forward. 34 years old again. Yeah, he is getting up there. He won the Elite XC 140-pound title 11 years ago. Like, fuck, this guy's been in the game for a long time. He's like 23 at the time. He's been around, but like, he's not quite done. He's got a little bit to show these young up and coming. And I'm not huge on Pantoja. The guy's got a high upside. Like, he's young, already a black belt. His striking's getting better. His cardio's not great. His takedown defense is not great. And you get a sense that maybe he's an Eric Silva type. So there's a lot of hype there, but maybe he's not really buying that own hype, and the confidence is not quite there. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is, but I don't love him yet. And Wilson Hayes could exploit somebody like that. So on a card where we like a lot of these favorites and a lot of these,
like a lot of like I think.
No, we don't.
I've been going through underdogs, to be honest. I think I'm going to struggle to pay.
Fair. I'm just saying
money.
the 7,400. That's what I'm getting at. I'm saying the 7,400. It's cheaper than FREVOLA. It's cheaper than OSP. It's cheaper than Grant. It's more expensive than Roundtree, who I do not like. I also like GASTELUM 7,000. But that 7,400, people are going to play Wilson because they know this guy's got a shot. And like you said, what if it's boring? What if it's boring, gets 6 takedowns and multiple ground transitions with a couple? It's only 60 or 70 points. Well, he's only $7,400. He's going to be low owned.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
Pantoja's a bad play.
Bad play for Pantoja.
The way that this plays out.
I will leave it at
Wilson
this.
Hayes
I
can be
will
a good
leave
play.
it at this. Dog or pass. That's what I'm going to leave it at.
We got Boston Salmon taking on Khalid Taha. Boston Salmon is 8,600 and a -125 favorite. Taha is 7,600 and plus 105. Who you got there, Coach?
Yeah, well, we jumped over the Max Griffin fight. I wasn't sure if that was by design or not. Do you want to jump back or come back? Doesn't matter.
No, we'll just go with Boston Salmon versus Khalid Taha.
Okay, yeah. So
At this point.
I would want to seriously avoid this fight on DraftKings. The issue with Boston Salmon is, this guy's technical. He's super slick. He's a good counterpuncher. The power seems to be there. The talent seems to be there. He's been off for nearly 2 years, first and foremost. And he has almost no killer instinct. Like, he's very complacent. If he's winning the round, he will not do anything more in that round other than what he's done because he's won the round. If he's up 2 rounds, he will just coast the 3rd round, hand it over to you, does not care. That's not what you want. That's not what you want, especially for the price tag on him of $8,600. You just don't want that. You want him to catch this guy and knock him out. Taha, I don't think he's likely to be caught and knocked out. Like, if you're going to beat him, you likely want to take him down and submit him. If that's off the table, you're going to want to stand with him and you're going to bang with him. Taha's going to put the pressure. He'll be moving forward. He'll be the one initiating the striking exchanges. He'll be the one throwing the more volume. A bad judge might give Taha this fight based on he might actually outland Boston Salmon. Boston Salmon's going to land the quality shots. He's going to land the more meaningful shots. And I think he will win a 29-28, some type of decision on this. I really do like what I see out of Boston Salmon. But again, that complacency of being in there and not pulling the trigger or not being up 2 rounds and then just saying, hey, why bother doing anything more? That's a problem. But as far as technically speaking goes, he's way faster than Taha. He's a much better counterpuncher. His boxing game will be the key here because faster hands. So if Taha wants to come in there and set up his kicks with his hands, he's going to get countered. If Taha goes out there, how do you counter the jab? Maybe the right kick, maybe the right low kick, maybe the overhand right. Maybe you try to slow him down that way. He's just going to get counterpunched. And as much as this is his type of fight, because Nad Narimani just took him down 6 times. He doesn't want that. When he was fighting in Ryzen, he was lighting up Otsuka till he got taken down. He does not want to get into any grappling exchanges. And Boston Salmon would be smart to take him down. I don't know that he will. So you're going to get a close fight between two strikers. One guy should be doing a little bit more. One guy should be landing a little bit better of strikes. And the last thing I want to say on Boston Salmon is an interesting piece here is that he's won fights by getting outstruck, like close margin. But his lone career loss, Paul, he fought Zach Riley. I want to say RFA 34. We have it at Fight Network. He wins the first round. Like, he drops Riley multiple times. He wins the second round. He drops Riley multiple times. The third round, he does nothing. He probably loses the third round. Should definitely win the fight. He loses a split. Michael Chavallo calls it like the biggest robbery of all time. It's a crazy call. He's just like, he's disgusted with this decision. Such a big robbery. But at the end of the day, he did to himself. He did to himself because even though he was dropping this guy in the first two rounds, he thought, well, I'm up. I'll coast. You do not want to play a guy like that on DraftKings. Avoid Boston Salmon, but minus 125, decent little price. I think he'll come up with a 29-28. I do not trust it because I don't know what judges are going to be judging this fight. That's ultimately when it's going to come down to. When it's two close guys, you can't sit there and say robbery. This should be that type of close fight. But Boston Salmon should be in that type of close fight and get the 29-28. So give me Boston Salmon, avoid him on DraftKings, and the degenerate in me will probably have some type of share of him moneyline-wise.
We have Salim IMADAEV versus Max Payne Griffin. 8,200 minus 115, 8,000 minus 105. Same pricing, same everything as Nikita Krylov versus OSP. I don't know who Salim is yet. I haven't had a chance. It's been Masters Week here, so I've honestly haven't really been able to do much besides focus on golf for the last week. So it's good to be talking about fights and all that stuff. Max Griffin's 14-6. Obviously, that record, he has fought all of the best. Yeah, I don't have a read on Salim yet, but it's a pick'em. So obviously, it sounds like his 8-0 record may be padded. I don't know.
Totally
Maybe you
padded.
can fill me in on this.
Yeah, well, this is a case of, do you trust what you see or do you trust what you hear? Because on one hand with Salim, record's totally padded. 8-0, fought very few guys with winning records. Generally smokes him out. The toughest guy he's ever fought was his last fight, but the fight only lasted 13, 14 seconds, so you can't really analyze what he would have done. We've seen him in a third round. We've seen him get a third round finish. Again, what are the real takeaways here? He's young. But what you hear is they call him Zabit 2.0. And he's Zabit Magomed Sharapov's training partner. And he's out of the same camp. And he's managed by Ali Abdelaziz. And he's undefeated. And he's 24. And he comes from a boxing and sauna background. And apparently, he's the motherfucking shit. But that's just what you hear. So you need to be able to trust that and say, oh, I hear all these good things. But how good is he? Because a big issue he's going to have is he's got Max Griffin, who's similar to when we were talking about those other first-round finish guys. We got to hope that FREVOLA crumples and FREVOLA's showing a tendency to crumple. Max Griffin's tough, dude. He's not just going to crumple in the front, not unless you're super special. But this guy, he went to war with Zaleski dos Santos. He fought guys like Mike Perry that are
Colby
big,
Covington
strong, and
gave him the work, but he was still fighting.
But it's the guy stays with it. And then his last fight's a disgusting robbery. I don't know how he lost that fight with Thiago Alves. I don't know. But again, it's there's another pressure fighter in your face, shorter guy trying to pressure you. Max Griffin has been in there with tough guys before. He's taken shots and he's shown that he can rally. He's shown that he's got long reach. He's got long distance. He's going to pose people problems. So Salim, he normally just goes out there and smokes guys out really quick. If he goes out there against Griffin and he doesn't smoke him out really quick, what's going to happen? And Magomed Sharapov is my boy. But if you were to say, is there a knock on Zabit Magomed Sharapov? You know what that knock would be?
He's not a finisher.
In the third round, he generally tries to fade a bit. And this kid's the same. This kid throws a lot of flying knees. He throws a lot of spinning back kicks. That's all high energy moves. And when you're 24 and you're 8-0 and you've beaten everybody and you hit them and they fall over, that's how you fight. Because you've never lost. You never had that gut check. You've never been deep into a rounds where your nose is broken and you're huffing and puffing and Max Griffin's still going. You've never experienced that. So if he goes out there against Griffin and he throws a spinning back kick and he throws the knees and he goes out there as a young 24 green immature fighter making his UFC debut, if he goes and he does all those things against Max Griffin and it doesn't work in the first round, he is going to have a problem. He's absolutely going to have a problem. But I am a massive Russian hype mark. I will bet the unknown Russian. Magomed Sharapov is fully my boy. And this is like, and I know he's not perfect. I really know he isn't. But I've been watching this guy for years. This guy's my boy. If you're going to tell me he's 2.0 and he's his training partner and they're in the same room and Ali Abdelaziz is managing both of them,
Sign me up as well.
I'm in. So give me this kid.
Yeah, you know whose fighters seem to all be doing well underneath the banner right now? Ali Abdelaziz.
Yeah, they don't take
Even
bad
like
fights.
Dan Ige, who had a little bit of a rough start. That guy's off to a he's on the right path now.
Yeah,
too.
you put all those guys in the same room and they train together. Like, how are they going to get any worse? They're getting great matchups. They're getting great opportunities. And here's a kid, hasn't fought in a year. I get it. But he's young. He's getting better every day.
How much has he improved in last year?
Yeah, so
Maybe he's Zabit 4.0.
Paul, I'm going to have to change my pants after even just thinking about that.
Nobody can see. Nobody can see underneath the table anyway. We got Bilal Muhammad taking on Curtis Millender. Bilal Muhammad is 8,500 on DraftKings and a minus 140 favorite. Millender 7,700 plus 120. This isn't rocket science, but it's whether Bilal Muhammad. He's a smart fighter. He's gonna go out there with the game plan. Probably only strike as much as he can to try to close the distance,
Paul,
take him down.
So.
But this isn't exactly a world-class wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. Millender has a lot of advantages. He's going to have he uses his length very well. He uses his kicks and maintains distance, but he fucking sucks off of his back. And we've seen that, and like we see how you can exploit him. He hasn't had the right opponents to actually exploit him yet. This is a nice little step to see if he can patch that stuff up. I don't know if he's going to patch that type of game up. My pick is Bilal here, but I don't think it's going to be like Bilal 30-27. Like, he may be able to get him down here and there. Is he going to be able to continuously hold him down? Like, I don't think he's some sort of elite wrestler. I think he's smart enough to know that he's going to be in danger on the feet to probably try to get this fight up against the cage and try to wear down Millender over there. And it's going to be greasy. That's how Bilal fights. Bilal finds the path to victory. And it's going to, it's by the hair of his chin. I think he gets like a 29-28 decision here. Like, I think it's going to be razor close. Give me Bilal, but Millender's obviously completely live. Like, these are all like pick'em fights. Like, this is super tight.
Bro, you're
across
hearing
the board.
me. It's tough to sit here and make a pick because you don't want to sound like an idiot. But our job is to make a pick. But they're tough fights, man. Yeah. They call him Curious Curtis Millender, but really it's Curious Cody Saftic. Because I'm curious, why can't he wrestle? Like, literally, he's been wrestling since he's 10 years old. And Millender's out of Eric Paulson's gym. Like, literally the catch-as-catch-can wrestling legend, Eric Paulson. And yet guys just toss him to the ground effortlessly, and he has almost a seemingly an inability to get back up. He has no ground game. He has no ability to shift his hips, no ability to create space, no ability to just get back to the cage, maybe try to work your way back up from there. Like, it's just like half guard and hold on. And he's been wrestling almost his entire life, like his entire adult life, certainly. It's crazy because the striking's there. You know, I mean, distance management's there. He's got a big head kick, obviously. He's got big hook, good power. And if you want to just try to run at him, Thiago Alves style, he'll pick you apart. But it's when you make it gritty and you get in his face and you're able to take him down, that's when he has an issue. Max Griffin, who we were talking about, he took Millender's power and he made it a greasy fight and he had success in spots, but Millender wins. Sire Bahadurzada, what does that guy got other than grit? He bashes him the first couple rounds, but Bahadurzada is able to just wing him to the ground. And then he's got a problem. When he fought Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, it's a pick'em fight. But a lot of the thought process here is like, why wouldn't Zaleski just take him down? He's actually pretty decent on the ground. And dude, it was so easy. That's all he did. Yep. Why strike with a guy who's obviously a very good striker when it's so unbelievably obvious that there's a glaring hole in his ground game? And Bilal Muhammad doesn't fall into the category of guy with low ring IQ. He generally has good game plans. His cardio, awesome.
Striking defense, not great. He gets hit.
Short. Yeah, he's short. And he's got short ass arms, and he keeps his hands low, and he keeps them wide open. He takes damage. And whereas he's one of those guys that's got a chin, he's also one of these guys that has been completely rocked left, right, and center, and you don't want him to see him have to use that chin over and over. But similar to the Tim Means fight, it's like Tim Means is a great striker, and he's a fire striker. He throws real legit techniques trying to knock your head off. Bilal can stand with him long enough to grapple this guy, and that's how you're going to win rounds. And that's a close fight, which I had him winning, but he won it on the basis of that he was fighting a mixed martial arts fight versus somebody fighting a striking battle. And I think that's what he's going to have to do here too. Millender's going to want to stand. Millender's want to strike. Millender's got a really sneaky good advantage here in that he got destroyed his last fight, but he didn't take no damage. So he got a full training camp, took no damage, and then is taking this fight. What is it? It's a month. It's 4 weeks later, right? It's probably in pretty good shape. Basically just did 2 camps. So maybe his body plateaued already and we're going to get a shitty version of Millender. Or maybe this guy's so embarrassed from that quick submission loss that he's taken no damage and he's going to surprise us. I don't know. I'm super worried that Muhammad takes the kind of damage he does before he's able to execute his wrestling or execute his grappling or close that distance or hold you up against the cage, whatever it may be. But he's a guy that fights a good game plan. A good game plan is going to be required here to get the victory. I think he gets the victory. The 8,500, man, Bilal Muhammad is a decision machine, and B, not a high score. So if it was 8,100, if I thought he was going to win the decision, which I think he should,
if these prices were flipped, maybe I start considering putting him into my player pool. But yeah, 85 is expensive to pay up.
It's not an appealing.
Like I think we already kind of talked about. It's like Jalen Turner right in that range. Like he could absolutely spark FREVOLA round 1. You know what I'd be very surprised by? Sure. Bilal Muhammad, first round knockout.
Yeah,
Bilal Muhammad. But maybe he can take him down and find a submission like Zaleski dos Santos, but he also doesn't have that same physicality. Zaleski dos Santos is pretty sure, like is super shredded.
Athleticism, explosiveness.
Exactly. Like I see a long grind, and that long grind doesn't really. It involves maybe takedowns and then staying right in guard basically the whole time, holding them there. Maybe a little bit ground and pound. Like not. I don't see tons of transitions and an absolute wizard masterclass on the ground from Bilal Muhammad. So. Color me surprised if he does pull that off. But yeah, Bilal Muhammad is the pick. Not crazy about him on DraftKings.
Bilal by decision. Maybe you can get a little bit better price tag.
Yeah, we got Montel Jackson taking on Andre Soccer Mom. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't call him that in his actual fight. I've called him that, in loose reference of like previous fights. Andre SOUKHAMTHATH. Montel Jackson is 9,400, minus 510 favorite. Andre SOUKHAMTHATH is 6,800 and plus 405. Montel Jackson looks great. Like he looks like he's got all of the skills. Everything is very well rounded. Great striker, really good speed and distance management. All of that stuff. But like he's really unproven at this point, I think, to be laying a price like this. That being said, Andre SOUKHAMTHATH against Sugar Sean O'Malley. That was one of those moments in the fight game where you go,
never again. If you bet him, which I don't think many people did. But
how do you follow that guy? The guy can't stand up. His ankle is toasted. He is completely pooched. All you got to do is stand up, go, come on.
That's it.
Get up. And the fight's over. They call it. He doesn't do that. He stays. His corner must be screaming at him, stand up. Don't stay on top of him.
Just back away. Yeah, not only
so
that.
it's like, even at plus a 405, like, you can't bet on this guy. Because if he ends up in a situation where it's just like, okay, this is his opportunity. We saw in that moment, this guy is very, very liable to fuck it up. So he's unbettable. But minus 510, just like, it's a big price to pay for a 7-1. 7-1 prospect who's
been fighting pro for like 2 years. Yeah, very young, very green.
Making lots of improvements. We've been saying that he's, heading into that Keller fight. Like we saw that the massive improvements that he made in between fights. So he looks good. Looks great. But does he look minus 510 great in the UFC? I'm not willing to make him an anchor of like all parlays all week long. What about you?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I like Montel Jackson. I think he's that like next breed of UFC fighter, of MMA fighter in general. Yeah, he's got a bit of a late start and he's still really young into his career, but he's one of those guys you're going to see like a massive amount of improvements, I believe, from fight to fight. He's a Pura Vida guy out of Milwaukee, great camp. Obviously got good tutelage. As an amateur, looked good. As a pro, has looked good. Comes on to Contender Series, again, looks good. that his lone loss in the UFC, that's going to grow this guy so much. Because the thing with Ricky Simon's like 5'0", power wrestler, good grappler, takes him down multiple times. That's like, it showed like this is how you're going to beat this guy. So now he needs to make those improvements. Don't get taken down by these shorter, stockier wrestlers. They say his grip strength second to none. They say the physical size of the guy's hand amongst the same as the heavyweights in the UFC. This guy's a physical specimen. Just getting going. Great athlete. Just getting going. A good wrestler. A great fighter. Those guys, they're going to beat him because he's young and he's learning. But like Soukhamthath doesn't fall in any of those categories. He really doesn't. He now believes himself to be a wrestler, but I think that's because the striking hasn't gone in his favor. Soukhamthath came, this is important to know, Soukhamthath came to the UFC as a one-dimensional striker. That was his game. He was the striker. His fight with Albert Morales, he got outstruck by a guy that should not have been on his level of striking. His fight with Alejandro Perez, again, he got outstruck by Alejandro Perez. His fight with Luke Sanders, he was getting outstruck by Luke Sanders, but he did catch him. But it was the fight with Sean O'Malley. He had 4 takedowns in that fight. He landed 25 significant strikes. By his own recollection, he doesn't really remember the fight. He said he got concussed early in the first round, got bopped around, doesn't remember it. That's why he says when he was on O'Malley and his corner was yelling, "Get up," he says he just couldn't hear anything. Didn't really know what was going on.
That's fair.
He was on the ground for 3 fucking minutes, Paul. Could you have not? I don't know. I digress. Then he takes on this. He was supposed to fight Gavin Tucker, and he ended up taking on Jonathan Martinez instead. Jonathan Martinez is tiny, he's a flyweight, and so now what you notice is that when he fought Sean O'Malley, he had 4 takedowns. O'Malley's a striker. Would you have not wanted to strike with a striker? Takes him down. Him versus Martinez. Martinez will strike with you, and he's half your size. Grapples with him again. So I see him coming in here with Montel Jackson. He doesn't want to strike Montel Jackson. He's gonna try to take him down, and it ain't gonna work. And he's gonna get bopped up. He is durable. I'll give Soukhamthath that. Maybe he's able to last the 3 rounds and Montel doesn't get that big finish. And for 9,400, I almost supremely need a first round finish. Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect him to choke out Kelleher like that, truth be told.
I didn't either.
But Kelleher's got one foot out the door. And Soukhamthath truly believes this is his path in life. So I think he'll be a little more durable. He'll be a little more savvy. He's been in fights where he's been ragdolled and lived to tell the tale before. So I think Andre Soukhamthath is able to just, if you're big on Montel Jackson, he's high ownership. I don't think he's going to pay up to that. I think we're all in agreement he should be the favorite. You got a legitimate prospect here versus a guy that there's a very strong debate is not at this level. Yeah. The young prospect should win, but we see this narrative all the time. It doesn't always work out that way. It would be a huge dog play to have the balls to say, I'm going to go Soukhamthath, but you do not want to do that because let's say Montel Jackson was to say blow out his ACL midway through the 3rd round. You still would not get the victory.
Exactly.
It would be a very gut-wrenching experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we kind of covered that. Yeah, 9,400. Yeah, it's a big unless he gets that first round finish. Maybe Soukhamthath goes for a takedown and gets submitted.
Well,
like that's in play.
Montel Jackson's had a lot of first round finishes in his career, but I think DK punches in the 5-1. And it's going to give you a $9,400 price.
Especially on this card where it's all pick'ems across the board.
It won't give you a better price than that.
He is by far the biggest odds.
Let people play him. And hopefully he just wins a regular decision. It's nothing supreme. And I don't have to worry about it.
I haven't started to build this week, but it's going to be a tricky.
It's going to be fun though.
Tricky lineup build this week for sure. We got 2 more fights left. Let's get through these ones really, really quick. We got Polyana Botelho taking on Lauren Mueller, 8,900. Polyana Botelho and Lauren Mueller, who got submitted by Yanan Wu or whatever in her last fight. That was fucking embarrassing. 7,300 plus 155. Botelho proved to us in her last fight out that this girl doesn't have much of a ground game herself. The absolute corpse of Cynthia Calvillo went out there and put the shit to this girl early on in the fight. Absolutely sparked her. I'll never forget this because I wasn't even really going to be on Polyana, but I saw those weigh-ins and I was just like, that girl that I see there's no fucking way that she wins a fight on. And sure enough, of course, she takes her down, finishes her with relative ease. But like, Mueller's gritty, but I don't think she's overly talented. Like, I don't think I see any sort of elite level athleticism, skill, technique. Nothing is really there, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't be surprised to see Botelho like spark her with strikes early on, to be perfectly honest, but at minus 175, coming off of a performance like that against a grinder in Cynthia Calvillo, I can't get behind betting her. At 8,900, I would need a first-round finish to roster her. And Mueller, it's a how many takedowns can you get kind of thing. I don't really think that she's a great wrestler,
None.
to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest with you. So, like, this is a very, very easy fight for me to stay away from altogether, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm going dog pass, which in this case, I'm going to take Lauren Mueller. I'm going to take Lauren Mueller, the plus 155. I really don't mind. But yeah, I could see her winning and not soaring 73 points. She's not very talented, man. Again, green, improving, but the division lacked competitors, and as such, she made it to the UFC. And she's not super explosive. She's not very dynamic. She's not a great athlete. She can't particularly wrestle very well. Her ground game, she got submitted from open guard by a white belt who was given her blue belt right after the fight. Sonda specialist. Fucking armbar from open guard, Paul. So, like, grappling's obviously not her forte. So, like, what does she do? She's a striker. She doesn't cut her angles off very good. Her footwork's non-existent. To say she's a pressure fighter would be laughable because she's moving forward. Yeah, maybe if that's what you mean by pressure, but like she doesn't pressure, she doesn't cut angles. You could easily just circle out and get away from her, but she is moving forward. She is aggressive, so to speak. It's a work in progress. I see little bits there. I see her getting better ever so slightly, but it has to be a specific level of competition that she's fighting in order to get the victory. Polyana Botelho, sorry. Yeah, she falls like right into that mix. She's not very good. She loads up on everything. She's so flat-footed, man. She just wings a massive leg kick and a massive hook. There's no combinations. There's not a real sense of a jab, at least not a meaningful one. It's power, 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 power. And against Pearl Gonzalez, she easily gets muscled up against the cage, but she lands a couple strikes here and there, outstrikes Pearl, gets the win. Then against Siri Kondo, fuck, man, I was on the wrong side of that one. Big body kick. This girl's got some power. She sits down on her strikes. She lands the big kick. Then against Calvillo, people assume Calvillo had a bad weight cut. People assume maybe, Polyana would just keep the fight standing, was able to just outstrike her, but she's actually getting outstruck by Calvillo. She gets her nose busted. She's bleeding. Then she's taken to, actually, she gets dropped for the most part. Not really, but you know what I mean. The fight ends up on the ground, and then as soon as it ends up on the ground the second time, not the first time where she's able to get back up right away, but the second time, it's like she looks a little bit out of water. So here's a Nova Uniao chick. So you have the impression that her jiu-jitsu is probably good, but it's not. It really isn't. What about her takedown defense? Well, that should be good, and it's okay, but at this level and at the competition rate that she's been fighting, it's easy to look okay. Well, how's her striking? She's got that big body kick, a couple of regional fights where she's showing off some power. But for the most part, it's just one and done. Lauren Mueller is not really all that talented. She isn't. But what she is she's younger. She's the younger athlete. She trains out of Alliance. So just right there, she has Kat Zingano. She's got Angela Hill. She has Jessica Panay. She had Beck Rawlins.
Dominic Cruz.
I don't know if he's training with them. They're all the same size, though. So, hey, she's training with an elite team that has an elite team of women fighting. It's like, fuck, she's in a good spot to be making improvements. Still young, decent enough athlete for this level. Maybe she's making some improvements there. But what I'm going to take Solstice out of is that when she fought on Dana White's...
Solace.
Yeah, I fucked that up.
Solstice.
Solstice. What I'm going to take solace in is when she fought on when she fought on Dana White's Contender Series against Kelly McGill, she took that fight at 135 pounds. Her fight versus Shayna Dobson, which she won, was 125. So she dropped from 35 to 25 and then lost to Wu at 125. And now is taking this fight at 115. So she's bigger and stronger. She's going to be able to work her in the clinch if that's where it's going to end up. And as far as the striking goes, Mueller's got great cardio. Like she'll keep coming. Polyana doesn't have great cardio. So I see Polyana win in the first round, and then in the second and third round, Mueller being able to take over. I love these spots for underdogs, Paul, because Laura Mueller was a 3-1 favorite against Wu. Looks good in the first round. Is winning the first round. Drops Wu with a short little left hook. Follows her to the ground and gets submitted. Mm-hmm. And now her next fight, she's an underdog against someone who's really not all that good.
Mm-hmm.
Now's the time to try to cash out on that value. Is that, whoops, she made a mistake. She got armbarred. Eric Del Fierro must have drilled it into her head going back to the gym after that. She took no damage. That was also her first time fighting outside of the U.S. She flies all the way to China. She has a bad weight cut.
I would argue that
I hate to make excuses
that gym
for her.
maybe
I hate to make excuses for her.
A little bit overrated, though, based on what we saw from Angela Hill in her last outing.
Let me put you on the spot right now. Right now, Paul Shaughnessy on the
'Cause
spot.
Angela Hill did not look
which
ready.
gym is more overrated currently right now in this day and age? Alliance or Nova Union? Shoot.
Does Nova
Paul, I
now
don't want
even
an
exist
explanation.
anymore? Do people actually train there? Because I don't know.
Then you answered your own question, my friend. I'm going with Mueller. That's my dog play. It ain't sexy, but I'm going with it.
All right, let's all join you in that. And finally, we got Brandon Davis taking on Randy Costa. Brandon Davis, 8,700 minus 170 favorite. Randy Costa, 7,500 plus 150. Who you got?
This one is extremely tricky because I could go on literally all day about why you should not bet Randy Costa and how that is why would you want any shares of this man? But at the same time, this is the type of fight he's probably going to end up winning because Brandon Davis might not put together a good game plan. It should be relatively competitive enough that it could be a bad decision. But like, I can't grasp my head around how Randy Costa is in the UFC right now. Like, I don't know what's up. So
4-0.
For the viewers that don't know, we'll give him a quick rundown. He was a highly touted prospect in 2015, right? He trains at a Joe Lozon's gym. There's some hype there. This guy's going to be decent. Striker, that's his MO. So he needs to get a MRI in order to get his medicals done so that he can get a professional fighting license in the state of Massachusetts. So he decides to lie to his family doctor and says he's got massive migraines in order to get a free MRI so that he didn't have to pay for it out of pocket. As a result, his doctor puts a note saying this guy's complaining of massive headaches, gets the free MRI, only the free MRI has some anomaly on it that they can't explain, but they immediately tie it to that's why you have the headaches. And he's now unable to get licensed for like 2 or 3 fucking years afterwards.
Not so smart.
So he took some time off, clearly, wasn't fighting, gets a little bit older, obviously improving in the gym. He's a Joe Lozon guy, but you got to also remember he's got Rob Font and Calvin Kattar that are available for him as well. So again, I don't think he's a terrible prospect, but now he gets his license, and now it's like I got to make up for lost time. I think he was, I want to say 3-0, 3-1, 3-0 as an amateur. Turns pro, he's fought in 4 guys, he's iced them all. It's the lowest level of competition, Paul, that you could possibly imagine. The lowest level of competition. So he's got a fight booked, right? Prior to this one, he gets a fight booked. And Joe tells him, Joe Lozon, if you look good in this fight, we might be able to get you a summer Contender Series fight, which he should be on Contender Series. He should not be on the UFC right now. This kid needs to work his way up and gain experience. Joe Lozon says if you win your next fight, you can get on a Contender Series fight in the summer. And then they yank him out of his upcoming fight and got him a fight with Brandon Davis in the UFC. I'm not going to say it's short notice for him because his other fight was scheduled to happen like 2 weeks before this one. So he's not short notice. He's had a full camp. But he's super green. He's not at this level. He's never really been past the first round. He's never been tested.
But Brandon Davis just wants to bang, bro.
Yeah, but Brandon Davis could create the hole for himself and fucking blow it. And that's what scares me. Because I want to go hard on Brandon Davis. The minus 170 more so than the 8,700 because he could just win a decision and not quite get me 87 points.
Well, he slings a lot of punches though.
He does. He comes at you. And that's going to be great here against Randy Costa because Randy Costa is a striker. Randy Costa, his grappling is not that good, man. Like you wanted his wrestling, first of all, takedown defense from the limited stuff I've seen, not very good. His submission game doesn't seem to be there. But you have to realize he is under Joe Lozon, so clearly he must know something. But he's not using it. So now you look on how he actually fights. He wings uppercuts and left hooks like the most telegraphed thing you've ever seen. You can see it coming from a fucking mile away. But when you're a terrible athlete and unable to get out of the way of it, it crams you. He'll throw 10 head kicks in a round. And 5 of them will land and eventually you'll succumb to it. But that's not going to happen against Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis should be able to take the damage, keep coming forward, outstrike him, I would hope. Maybe even out-wrestle this guy. Randy Costa comes from a football background. He's a decent athlete just getting into MMA. Is that not the exact same thing as Brandon Davis, a former good collegiate football player who is now getting into MMA, only Brandon Davis has got 4 fights in the UFC. And Brandon Davis did fight on Contender Series. And Brandon Davis fought some tough dudes on the regional scene before getting here. Oh, well, I train with Joe Loza. I train with Alan Belcher. It's the same fucking thing. Aged UFC veteran is my head coach. Like, what's it matter? So what we got here is a guy that's been to the dance, danced with some tough dudes, and shown us something versus a completely unheralded, young, undefeated prospect. You got to go with Davis. Now, people will tell you, Davis is not a great-looking playman. Be careful there. This is all I got to say. Beats Austin Arnett on the Contender Series. Austin Arnett, not that bad. Turns out, not that bad. Kyle Bochniak. He fought Kyle Bochniak on short notice in Boston. I thought he won, but he's in Boston against Bochniak. He loses. Then he smokes Steven Peterson. He gave up some 8 or 10 takedowns against Barzola, who's a tough enough guy. Didn't look good in his last fight, but is a tough enough guy. And then he took the fight with Zabit Magomed Sharapov on a week's notice. I think it was 6 days' notice. Damn, dude. And gave him somewhat of a go before getting his groin ripped in half with that knee bar. Yeah. And then just to make everything a little bit better, if you're starting to think, fuck man, Cody's actually making a little bit of sense here, is that Brandon Davis is dropping down to 135 for this fight. So like he was a little undersized at 45. He's gonna have some nice size at 35. He's gonna be massive. It's gonna be massive. And this kid here is not all that big. And so everything screams Brandon Davis. But I've been fucking owned on spots like this before because you are betting 9-6 Brandon Davis. Keep that in mind. Killer B and not Ben Saunders. Not that you would want to bet him at this point.
We're going to end up rostering Brandon Davis. I can feel it.
We're going to probably take, I don't know. We'll see. He's 8,700. That's a big price tag. Like if he wins all 3 but doesn't score you the 87 points, low ownership, that would be the big key here. But not a whole lot of points. It would make it dangerous. This is a tough week. This is, one that could go in very many ways, but just to recap, because I'm sure I've been a little scatterbrained here, I'm going to go Max Holloway. I got to take a pick. I'm going to take Kelvin Gastelum, Eric Anders, Alan Jouban, super reluctantly, Nikita Krylov, Jalen Turner, Wilson Hayes, Zalim IMADAEV, Zabit 2.0, Boston Salmon, Bilal Muhammad, Montel Jackson, Laura Mueller, and the other killer bee, Brandon Davis.
So there's
hopefully channels his inner Jason Knight, his training partner, just fucking gets out.
Cody's free money parlay.
Yeah.
13 leg free money parlay.
And a lot of sites only let you go up to 12. So you're going to have to cut one of them shits off. And that would be, yeah.
Anything else on your mind there?
No, fun card.
Do you want to talk about TJ at all or whatever? Guy took EPO.
Yeah.
I mean, it all adds up. It's just like, oh, so you're going to be down a weight class. Like he looked like he was running out of energy. It's just like, it sounds like he was doing it for years though, because Cody Garbrandt was calling him out when they were having press conferences. He said, "Oh, it sounds like all the EPO went to your head." Like that's literally I think that was actually literally from a tweet that
Yeah, they always used to bring up that stuff. Like I remember in the back and forth of the first Garbrandt fight, he was like, "Man, you were in the gym showing people how to take it in the ace."
Yeah,
the needle that is.
Just like,
but it's like that actually fuck, dude. That's a hell of an accusation.
That implicates you as well as being there, learning how to do steroids.
That's what I wanted to bring up. The greatest quote of all times is they talk to Uriah Faber and they're just like, "What do you think about the TJ positive?" And he goes, "Can't believe it took them 6 years to catch up." It's like he was at your gym for the bulk of those 6 years. Like what?
I mean,
so then you're
let's be honest. That gym, there's been like, Mendez got caught. Like it's MMA. I guess this is like a little easy way. Just like so many of your favorite fighters, all have at least taken them. They may not take them right now. Now that USADA's in, some of them may have been scared off the trail. The guys making lots of money have found doctors who have found other little ways to get it in, trying to stay ahead of USADA. The historically, I'm not an expert on this matter by any stretch of the imagination, but like, historically, you go to like baseball, you go to all of this, just like the mad scientists behind the scenes are always just a step ahead of the organizations, because the organizations have to go through all these channels to change their rules and policies and strategies and their working order for how they go about adjudicating or administering tests. So they're always a little bit ahead if you've got the money to get the good stuff. But,
Yeah, well, ultimately that's what it is that you could be taking the cheap gas, or you could be taking the expensive gas. And you're going to have an advantage if you have a strength and conditioning coach and a dietitian and maybe a doctor on the side. Who knows? With TJ, it's You never like to see it because you want to see everybody get a fair shake. But with TJ, it is difficult because you mentioned it. You know, your favorite fighter is probably on juice. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's not. But when you watch TJ versus Renan Barão, a normal human being would get tired at some point from throwing all those punches.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And what that is, in a nutshell, is EPO.
Yeah.
But it'd be very wrong for me to sit here and judge TJ Dillashaw for cheating and beating up Renan Barão, who was likely also cheating.
Well, no, he stopped cheating because he didn't have access to the goods.
Yeah.
And then his career fell off an absolute cliff right around the time where they stopped testing or they started testing extensively.
Yeah, my thing is just like everything in life, it's like there's a level to it. There's a line to it. Where do you draw the line in the sand, right? And I think a lot of this stuff is maintenance drugs, right? You got a bad back because you're training all the time. You're taking something for your bad back. Guys used to get marijuana tests. Well, what was that? That was just, well, I'm a little sore after training, so I smoke a little weed and I got some random tests. Does that make you a cheater? No. So now you're getting into like steroids. You're getting into Lasix and diuretics and all these things. Well, they're all performance enhancers, but like everything's a performance enhancer in its own way. Let me ask you this, okay? Straight up. I know we're getting off topic, but it's the end of the show. So if you want to tune out, go ahead. But like, let's say me and you are like, yo, let's go curling. We're going to go curling, okay? And you're like, fuck, dude, when I get low on this is a Canadian thing, by the way. When I get low on the sheet to cast my rock, I'm stiff. Hey, I got a bad back. I got a bad hip. I'm stiff. So tomorrow we're going to go play. So you take Robaxin for your back and then we go play. That's a performance enhancer. You're now playing better because you took the Robaxin. Now your back's not stiff. You're not thinking about it. Maybe I got high before I shot the rock. I'm not thinking about it. It's a performance enhancer. You drank a coffee. You drank a Red Bull. Whatever the case, right? Darts. They banned smoking and drinking from darts. Well, why is that?
Because it calms you.
Fucking calms you, dude. And as much as that doesn't sound like a real thing, it is. Guy I know, this happens all the time, is a positive, the horse got a positive test. So they look at the positive test and it's a fucking antidepressant. Who in their right mind would give a horse an antidepressant? But you saw that horse when it wasn't on anything, it would sit on the cross ties before the race and it would pulse and it would sweat and it would fucking get fired up. And now it gets out there and it ties up. The pressure gets to it, the loud noises, it runs really fast the first quarter mile, first half is dead at the 3/4 pole, done. Now that same horse was the one that tested positive for the antidepressant. It just sat on the cross ties. Like, just not a care in the world. Happy place. Calm. I'm on a beach in Florida. And then goes out there nice and relaxed and just ate up the competition 4 or 5 weeks in a row till they caught him. So that's just the thing, is like the things that you don't think about are performance enhancers, right? So like I say, was the antidepressant performance? I don't think so. They used to give vodka to horses. Again, it calms them down. That was like the fucking 80s. But is that a performance enhancer? I don't think so. Is Miracle Crocop rehabbing his shoulder with an antibiotic steroid? Rehabbing his shoulder? No fight booked. Is he cheating? I don't think so. But EPO? Ooh, how are you going to debate that one? You're a fucking cheater. This is really the only way around that.
Full-blown cheating.
And he didn't contest it, and I will give him respect for that.
Yeah, I'll give him respect. I think he knew. He's just like,
he knew, and we knew.
I'm caught, but I like that he didn't have to like bullshit the whole process. Like, we didn't have to like drag the belt out of his hands. He's just like, yeah, I'm gonna just step aside. If he
comes back to fighting in 2 years,
he's done though. Like,
probably
fighting at bantam, like he can come back. He can have a fight or two. Maybe he can like have if Cruz is even around at that point. Maybe they could have.
Cruz ain't around now.
No, I mean like they could have like a legacy fight type of thing, like that type of situation. Him versus Faber. Exactly. Faber will be in his 40s at that point.
Probably,
I think. But
of course.
Yeah, no, you're like at that weight class. Like here's what I was thinking. I didn't really actually publish it anyway or say it, but it's just like if my boy Frankie Murder gets busted for anabolic steroids, well, he's like a 33-year-old heavyweight. 2 years from now, when he's 35, he can come back and knock the fucking head off of just about anybody, like even without the juice, whatever. Like he can come back at heavyweight, still be faster than most of the guys that he's fighting because they're all around the same age anyway, and speed just doesn't matter. TJ Dillashaw's whole game plan is around that speed, around that cardio. It's just like, what does he could go back to the wrestling. Maybe he can win against guys like,
I don't know.
but wrestling,
man.
you get tired from as well, right? So
Yeah, not only that, it is my personal opinion that 35 is their best division. Like, it is murder's row.
Yeah.
Guys, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and being 30, like he'll be back when he comes back, he'll be like at least 35 years old.
35, a
being
lot slower.
35 years old in that division, like TJ was running out of miles, you would think, from a competitive standpoint anyway. Even with continuing to fight, being 35 years old at 135 pounds, like you don't see guys peak like everyone seems to kind of hit like 33, 34 and they start to go downhill. Like that's just the way it is.
Wow, it's a division where speed kills.
Yep.
Heavyweight, speed is not a factor at all. Like they're all in their 40s.
You can fight into your 40s and you're fine.
You could be 100 years old and still have a claim to potentially being faster than Ben Rothwell. Like, I don't know what the hell happened his last fight, but like, this is a very slow and plodding division. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now with TJ at 35, he's still an elite level martial artist, but you got to wonder, like, is the confidence there? I think he used to see a sports psychiatrist, then he leaves his gym, he's called the snake in the grass, and he starts trying to own it. You know, his logo is the snake and all these different things about him. Like, he just tries to own it, but I don't know. It's always seemed like maybe there's a bit of confidence that's lacking. And then you go out and you take the EPO and it gives you that extra juice and you go out there and you fight. And he really wanted to fight with Demetrius Johnson. He talked a lot of shit. How disrespectful would it have been, to fight the pound for pound GOAT, a flyweight, moving up for a legacy fight, and you're going to EPO on him? Fair enough. So now you fight Henry Cejudo. I guess it doesn't matter. But it's like, where do you go from there? I don't know. And on the Demetrius Johnson note, there's guys in his camp that EPO too. So like it's really hard for the pot to call the kettle black, because everybody, if you don't do it, but you train in a gym where your training partners do it, like what, and then you fight a guy that does it. Are you upset that the guy fought you, but your training partner's doing it because he's in the same boat? Like, everyone's just trying to get a piece of the pie. In TJ's case, he really lucked out, dude. He lucked out because he didn't get fined, I don't think. He just got 2 years, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah, well, he ain't making any income for the next 2 years, so you're not getting fined is huge. Imagine they told him, give us back the money you got paid to fight Henry Cejudo. We want it back. Did you get pay-per-view points on that? I think you did. Give that back too. Now you got a big issue, man. It's like, I don't know. Ultimately, it's sad, but you're gonna start hearing more of this. And my last point is respect for him for admitting it. Who's the greatest? You're a baseball guy. You used to be a baseball guy. Who's the greatest pure hitter in the history of baseball? Right, Barry Bonds, for sure. And I don't know if Mark McGwire is number 2, but let's just say he is. Both those guys, they cheated. And when asked, did you cheat? They said no. Neither of them are in the Hall of Fame. TJ's not a Hall of Famer to me regardless. Had he maybe been champ, maybe. But Andy Pettitte, the pitcher for the Yankees, they're like, did you cheat? He's like, I cheated, and these are the reasons why. But he admitted it. Andy Pettitte's in the Hall of Fame. Those other guys aren't. Because Andy Pettitte took the high road. I am a cheater. I apologize to the fans, but I did it. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. And John Jones is a bullshitter. John Jones would have not taken the TJ approach.
The world in general is pretty good at people will accept apologies.
You got to be willing to apologize, though. Most people just aren't the bigger man. Most people are, I didn't do it. I'm telling you, 2 people mugged me, poured a bunch of bleach on me while I was trying to eat my Subway. It's like, man, it's a bullshit story. It's okay. Just say it's a bullshit story and we'll just move on. Nah, man, it's the truth. Now it irks me. Now it irks everybody. Like, why don't you just say it? So, to me, yeah, I mean, I hate to say the Max Holloway, it is what it is again. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because he's an elite level fighter. But anyways, my last point, I'm going to wrap this off on a real sad note. Real sad. We're going to get real fucking depressing right here. MMA is in its infancy, right? So you don't know. Like when in boxing, you hear about all these guys that are vegetables and it's like, oh man, boxing's a bad sport. Or in football, you hear about all these guys that are completely broke afterwards and have CTE and it's like, oh man, that's really shitty that they have. But those sports have been around for 100 years. Those sports you see. MMA, you don't. There's no 60 or 70-year-old fighter. So it's hard to say, oh, that's what you're going to look like when fighting's done for you. But you're going to start to see it. And that's when you'll start to make the decision, how much am I on this? But we all love Matt Hughes, don't we? Oh, shit, he's a piece of shit. He's a woman beater. Geez, Tony Ferguson. Maybe he's a piece of shit too. He's fucking out of his mind. He's doing some shit. BJ Penn comes out. Fuck, man. He's a piece of shit. You get punched in the head for a living, man. So guys are going to pop for steroids and guys are going to get arrested for crimes. And it's like, you can't sit here and say MMA is a bad sport. It's just that MMA is now having more athletes and has been around for longer. And you're going to start seeing more guys that are broke. And you're going to start seeing more guys that are on substance abuse. And you're going to start seeing more.
Jesus Christ.
You just got to
Cody.
accept it, man. That's fucking life. That is life. So
after we had our Tony Ferguson little meltdown earlier
poor
on
Tony.
in the show.
Feel bad for Tony.
People tune into this to like have a good time.
yeah.
You're making everybody sad. You're not here next week though.
No, I'm here next week
Okay.
because I leave on the 19th.
Okay.
So I'll be able to do next week's card. Is it the Russia? Is Russia next week?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think I'm gone for the Ottawa card. Again, I could be off on that. But
Cool.
And to bring things back onto a positive side, Cody Saftic Hanover going on Thursday. Drew the 6 hole in a real tough race, Paul. So I'm not expecting much. Finished 3rd last week. Happy with that. But it's a tough race. So I'm sure she'll go off at like odds to 15-1. But I'm hopeful of top 5. Top 5 gets paid. So wish me some luck.
Good luck to Cookie.
Little cooks.
Everyone pile, not this week. Don't pile the money onto Cookie Saftic this
I'll
week.
give you the heads up. We draw inside on like an 8-horse field. Depends who the field is. In this case, it's like one of the horses in the field win 3 races in a row last year in the States, like 48,000 American, fits this class on like the biggest bullshit allowance. So it's like, yeah, she's probably going to be real fast, but little cooks, she comes home in 27 seconds. She'll be with it.
We'll find a spot
Yeah.
to hit Cookie. At what is it, like Mohawk that it races out of?
Mohawk.
Nice Canadian thoroughbred horse racing knowledge.
Standardbred, Paul.
Standardbred. I know nothing about this. This guy is the one buying freaking cows and livestock and horses and stuff with all of his MMA winnings. So
You got to turn your dirty money into clean money. And again, Paul, that's just life. So I will leave you at that.
that is Cody Saftic. Thank you for breaking down the fights with me as always. I am Paul. Thanks for listening, watching, and putting up with us for another straight week. Looking forward to the fights at UFC 236 from Atlanta. 2 interim title fights, 2 kind of dodgy titles, but really, really entertaining card altogether. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. For Cody, I am Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience! Experience!